The challenges. I'm just going to wrap up with some of these things that we've found over the years has been difficult. We are forced to test newcomers in English before they're proficient in English. That's a challenge that we face. I'm not sure ESSA is going to make it much easier than NCLB was, but maybe there'll be some flexibility with regard to that. AYP, this one actually I should take off because that's not going to exist anymore. We don't have to worry about that in quite the same way. Graduating the students from high school in 4 years, and again, there's more flexibility. There always had been waivers. You know, for the last 10 years or so, there's been the option for a state to apply to the Department of Ed for a waiver. When we did our study, only 6 states had even bothered to apply for a waiver, you know, which would say we could do it in 5 years or we could do it in 6 years. Very odd from my perspective. This was another thing that was really a big shift from when we did the study in the 90s to this study, was just the number of mental family kind of issues that the students were experiencing. So family reunification is a really big thing, where a parent or both parents had been in the US for a number of years, and then the children come and join them. The PTSD and how to deal with that. Some of the families, some of the cultures didn't want to accept mental health services, and so there was a lot of education maybe that had to happen with the parents. I know in Columbus, they got the elders of the Somali community involved and got them to talk to the parents with the school staff about, you know, health services, mental health services in particular. How to keep the high school newcomers in school. You know, that's also tough. A lot of family pressures to get jobs, for example. Providing special education. Not all of the newcomer programs felt they did a good job with this, particularly if they were at a separate site because of staffing issues, right? The post-secondary options for these students. And again, because the DREAM Act is not national, some of these kids really lost their motivation the closer they got to graduation in regard to that. Measuring long-term effects of the program. This is the hardest thing for me as a researcher, because the programs, I could not find a single program in all the ones that we looked at that tracked the kids from when they were a newcomer to what happened to them when they left that school district. Because we could find how well they did in the newcomer program. We could even find, in some cases, how well they did newcomer / then ESL 2, 3, 4, whatever. But once they exited ESL, they were no longer tagged in the database, in the school system. So you couldn't see, well, did they end up graduating? You know, did they go on to college? What happened to these students? And, you know, a place like New York City where they can go anywhere for high school was difficult to find. Schools like the internationals would look at how their graduation rates were. And so the two that we looked at in our case studies, their graduation rates at their school were well above the city average, which was very promising. But then sort of what happened? A lot of that tracking of the students, that tagging of the students in a school database wasn't happening. So just as a word of caution, if you're interested in seeing how your newcomer students do, make sure they're tagged when they're in your newcomer program so you can follow them over time. Future research, we don't have research specifically on elementary newcomer programs, so nobody's done any national studies of that. We're still struggling with some of these program evaluations. We don't have any, I hate to say this, the kind of medical standard, I don't even want to call it the gold standard, of, you know, comparison, control group and non-control group. We just don't have that kind of research. I don't know that we need it, but we do need to track what's happening to the students that we do have. And then the pre-ninth grade program. So this is something that's growing in New York City right now. How many of you follow football or college sports? And you ever heard of a red-shirted freshman? Okay. So there's a program in New York now called Bridges, which has developed a red-shirted freshman program, for those of you that don't know that. But basically, the students go to their high school, and they're in a pre-ninth grade year. And they get newcomer services, a specially designed curriculum, content area instruction, language development in that year. And then the next year, they officially enter ninth grade. So it's designed as basically a 5-year high school program, and they have that support year. These are again for SIFE students, who have significant gaps in their educational backgrounds. But this is the only place where it started, so we need more research on how this is working. For more information, go to the cal.org website, and there's lots of services and information about the Newcomer programs, including the report and the database. So, bibliographies, those kind of things, and just thank you.